What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Church Conversations. We got a great friend, great pastor, great leader with us today. We're going to be talking about what your senior pastor, what your pastor, even what your leader wishes they could say. And I promise you, just a little warning, we might step on some toes. But in these conversations on the show, we want to talk about things that maybe aren't always talked about at a conference, or they are not talked about as much as maybe they should be. But I believe that today's topic is going to be huge. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And so I want to welcome you as you're joining in online. Hey, make sure you let us know that you're here. Drop a comment, say hi. Hey, if you would, go ahead and share. Like the video, share with your friends. We want to have as many people on this and have a conversation. Again, we're going to be talking, going back and forth. We want you in the conversation. And then even on this, as we're going, if you have questions, let us know in the comments below, because we want you to be involved. We want you to be part of the conversations. And so again, if you're new, if you don't know me, my name is Chandler Boyce, and I get the opportunity of leading Free Church Media. And we're going to be bringing on Landon Pickering today and having a conversation for about 30, 45 minutes. We'll see, who knows. We're just kind of having fun. So I hope you're having a wonderful day. Again, as you're joining, make sure and share. We want to get as many people on this. We got people watching. We're streaming from to Facebook and to YouTube. And so I want to welcome again everybody. Make sure you say hi. And let's go ahead and jump into this. So if you would, help me welcome. You can put some like clap hand emojis. I don't know, whatever. Just say hi, and help me welcome a good friend, pastor, bishop. Anyways, Landon Pickering, what's up, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, Chandler? Thanks for having me, man.
No, I'm excited. And just for everyone that doesn't know, Landon is actually on the board of Free Church Media, as well as Manny Marengo. Landon is our vice president. Not only is he on the board, but it's kind of a crazy story. We won't get into all the story. We've talked about it a little bit. But Landon is actually, I guess what you could say, he's the pioneer of Free Church Media in a sense. Years ago, he started something called Church Hustle, and we were friends, and he was working on that, and he got to a place where he was going to take over a church or become a senior pastor, and was like, yo, I can't do both. And so if you would, take this over and help keep this thing going. And so it's kind of a really cool story. I think it's the beauty of even what's going on now is like full circle, is that what 2016, 17 or whatever, I couldn't even imagine that this would all be happening. And I think it's a beautiful story of really what relationships and what collaboration does, and what it does, churches and people working together to make something happen. And so I'm excited to have you. And so we're going to go ahead and jump in. And we're talking about now, just so you guys know, Landon he's been a senior pastor. How long has it been now?
So we're at 2.5 years. So this coming February of 2021 will be three years since we've been here.
Awesome. And he was also a youth pastor for many, many years. And so I think that for him, obviously, he's not, I wouldn't call you a senior pastor vet. I would say you've been around the church world and ministry quite a while. But I kind of want to hit on today some of the dichotomies of being, on a staff, under a senior pastor, under leaders, different layers, but then going from that to now you are a senior pastor. And I think that, when we were kind of talking before this, there are just things that, maybe frustrations, let's be honest, some frustrations that you have, but sometimes it comes from a lack of understanding. And so let's just kind of talk, maybe for you personally, what are maybe one or two things that like have changed your mindset, maybe things that you were like, oh, now I understand, from being, from working and serving under, maybe an oversight executive, senior pastor, whatever, to now like, okay, you're the guy, you're the senior pastor. And what are maybe some things, one or two things, like off the top of your head, like, this is something that I just was like, okay, I totally understand now.
Yeah, so just immediately, like the first thing, I think when I was in youth ministry, or even when I began thinking about planning a church, and then this all worked out, we ended up here at Trademark. Um, you have this thought of what it's going to be, and a lot of times that thought is naive because you think you know what it's going to be, and you think it's easier than it is.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to look at like, oh, well, I could do what he does, or I could sit in that seat. And then you get in that seat and immediately you realize, I think first and foremost, above anything, your first couple months, you realize the weight of sitting in that seat. And it's not the weight of preaching a sermon, because if you've done that, you've done that. It's not the weight of even leadership. It's the weight of responsibility that you
Yeah.
have now for the church, because in a lot of ways, where the senior pastor goes, how he operates, how he leads, is really the direction that the church goes. And so you immediately feel this weight of responsibility for the church. And for our context, I was stepping into a church that had a 49-year history. And we
Wow.
step in, and here I am, I'm a rookie, as far as being a senior leader, and figuring a lot of stuff out, and you just feel this weight. Then I would say you also realize the broad scope of all that goes on in the church very quickly. Typically, before you're in this type of role or an executive pastor type role, then you were pretty limited to, man, my scope is kids, or my scope is students, or my scope is
Yeah.
first impressions or connections or groups. And you're micro focused, whereas you sit in this seat, you have to have this macro 30,000-foot view of everything,
Yeah.
because you've got to operate and make decisions and make moves and figure out how do you take all of this and build it, grow it, advance it, and lead all the players that you have on your team as well. So I'd say just quickly, those are probably two things: just the scope of things and the weight of the responsibility hits you pretty quickly. And then
Yeah.
you say, Chandler, what I get myself into? Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing?
Well, I, uh, I remember even like early on having those moments of like, oh, I could do that, or even maybe not about my senior pastor, but other like leaders above me, like, oh, I could do that better, or
Yeah,
whatever. And and honestly, for me personally, God had to work out a lot of just pride in me. And it was definitely not easy. But I remember even like, just like years later going, man, sometimes I just wish I could go back to like when I only had one little area, and it was really like all the work was really up to me. I wasn't really like leading a lot of people. Like it was definitely a lot simpler. And so I think sometimes I'll say this is I think sometimes we don't you don't understand the weight until you're actually sitting in the seat.
yeah,
And even if you can comprehend and have conversations, that's why I want to have this conversation, because even if you can, listen here and have those conversations with those above you, which I think you should, you still just don't understand until you get in the seat and go, oh, okay. So maybe I can do this, but this is definitely going to be a lot tougher.
yeah,
Um, tougher than I thought. I always had this. I'm just gonna kind of throw some question out, and then I'm gonna have Landon just kind of talk about, and I'm from the angle of both, now a senior pastor and someone who was served under leadership. I remember and a lot of these questions are like things that I've actually dealt with, but I think it's some questions that a lot of people ask. Is man, I just feel like my senior pastor, I feel like my oversight, they're not leading me. Like they're not like I don't, they're not giving me any books to read, or they're not really giving me any any maybe goals, or things to work towards, or whatever. They don't ever meet with me. Like I remember kind of having those kind of like,
yeah.
well, like they're not oh, here, this is the one. They're not pouring into me. You're not pouring into me. Why don't you kind of talk about that one? This is a fun one.
Yeah. So I think one, as a staff member, when you look at your senior leader or your oversight, it doesn't have to be even your senior pastor, just the person
Yeah.
that is your, your oversight, your leadership. Man, you got to realize one thing. You got to realize, like, they have a broad scope of responsibility. So there's more than just you that they're focused on. They have a family. They put in the same amount, if not more hours than you. They've got a lot of things going on. And so I don't think it's healthy, and I don't think it's reasonable to put certain expectations on your leader to pour into you that you're not even doing for yourself. So if you're waiting for your leader to hand you a book, my recommendation would be go buy a book. There's enough books that come out every single week in our culture today, and there's enough, Google searches, Instagram, whatever. You can find a book that will help you be better in your area. So if you're waiting for your leader to pour into you and you're not pouring into yourself to become the best that you can be, what you're going to do is you're going to end up frustrating that leader because you become needy. And a lot of times you got to do some self-evaluating on why is it that I need this pouring into. Am I missing something from maybe a parent as I grew up? Am I missing something from a relationship that I did or didn't have? Am I bringing past hurts from a previous job into this equation? And you've got to really kind of take a step back and say, okay, what is it that I need? I want to grow. I want to be good at what I do. Okay, what if your leader never did anything for you? One, that wouldn't be healthy, but does that mean you're just going to stop growing? And I think you have to take a personal responsibility to say, these are the things that I want to get better at. And so if I'm not feeling like I'm getting that right now, I'm going to get that somewhere. I'm going to watch a podcast. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to, tune in to this leader, not with the hopes of, man, I really wish I'd be under that type of leadership, but I'm going to take this and apply this. And somebody told me this one time. It says, sometimes you got to lead your leader. And what that means is you've got to do what you can do to elevate the area that you've been placed in. And a good leader will take notice of that. And there are seasons where I think leaders are testing people to see what they will do. What if I don't give them something? What if I don't give them vision or direction? What are they going to do? What are they going to create? And they're looking for people because cream always rises to the top. I may be looking for a new leader to head something up. And I'm going to look at our team and say, man, that person, they've been developing themselves. They've been bringing ideas to the meeting. They've been growing their area or developing other leaders. And so I think you've got to take some self-evaluation and begin to try to grow yourself. And then anything else your leader gives you is extra.
Yeah. No, I think that was something for me that I realized is like, and there's some great books out there. We can kind of talk about that, but like leadership, like being a good leader has nothing to do with your actual given position, because the truth is you can lead up. You can actually like I have, there's he's also one of our board members, but we worked together for years, a great friend, Elijah. And like one thing that I always noticed about him is that he was always like, he would come to me and go, oh man, I'm reading this book, or I took this class and I think this is something that we should consider doing, or hey, I've been analyzing, whatever, and I'd just be like awesome. And that's in that right there, like obviously his work ethic was good and whatever, but like that spoke, like that like got my attention more than a lot of other things, because it showed me that he wasn't waiting for me to, hey guys, read this book. And I would do that with our team. We'd walk through a book and here's, if you didn't know this, most major books, if maybe you're low on funds and like money's tight, listen, if you type like free PDF after like almost any book, you can find it on the interweb. It's all on the internet. I'm just saying, like, it's like, I'm not saying steal, but I'm saying if money's tight and you want to grow, ask for forgiveness later. But I think that you can actually, when Elijah would do that, it would challenge me to go, oh, am I reading? What am I bringing to the table? Like what
That's what I mean
conversations?
by leading your leader right there. That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. There's one thing, as much as the church world will change and things are always changing, culture's changing, the world's changing, technology's changing, man, personal drive to better yourself will always be noticed. Will always be noticed. And it's the thing that you have control of. You may not have
Yep.
control over vision or direction or finances or anything, but you have control over yourself and what you're doing to develop as an individual. You have control over the ideas you bring. Say you bring 50 ideas and 49 of them get shot down, but the one that you brought ends up getting used. Man, you helped advance something because you were willing to just keep coming to the table with new thoughts, new ideas. And eventually, I'm telling you, that stuff will get noticed. You couple personal drive with work ethic, man, you will find yourself in the right room at some season.
Oh, that's another question or another thing. I just feel like no one really like listens to me or uses my ideas or like here's what I'm it's like my ideas always get shot down. Oh, that's another man. Like
Well,
talk about that one.
well, one, your ideas might just not be good, and so you may have to come to grips with that. That man, like, but that's the thing. Like, keep firing them. Don't get discouraged.
Yes.
But the truth is, most ideas are not good ideas. They're not. You sit in brainstorms. That's why you have ideas. Like, what about this? What if we try that? What if we did that? What if we did this? We may try it. We may not. We may shut it down immediately. Like, heck no, we're not doing that. You may just have a bad idea, or you may have a bunch of bad ideas. You shouldn't let that affect you. Don't get discouraged by that. We're all constantly trying to think of how we can better our church, or how we can advance, how we can reach more people. And so you can't get discouraged by getting your ideas shot down. You just, I mean, you gotta have a little bit of a toughness to you.
Yeah.
When it comes to not having your ideas accepted, because the truth of the matter is, if we accepted every idea or every thought, one, we wouldn't have the budget to pull it off. No church would. And two, we would be moving in so many different directions that we wouldn't be able to streamline our focus and make the greatest impact for the small piece of the kingdom that God has called us to lead. And so you can't be worried about that stuff. You've got to just keep coming back to the table with things and not sulking. And honestly, like, maybe you should ask like a coworker, because sometimes your leader isn't going to want to be mean, doesn't want to embarrass you in a meeting or anything like that. And so you should, if you feel like your ideas are being shot down, go to a teammate and be like, hey man, what do you think about these ideas? I want honest feedback. Are my ideas just not good? And what could I be doing to better that? Because your leader may just be moving on in the conversation because he doesn't want to say that was a terrible idea. Why'd you even bring that up? So consult with your teammates as well on some of those things. I think would be helpful.
Well, and I'll say this is something that I really struggled with early on is that like feeling like my ideas were never heard or implemented. So I started doing a couple things. One, I started, like, if I had an idea, I would listen, and then I would do some research. And if I'm coming to the meeting, I'm not just coming with an idea, but I'm coming with like some facts. Mm-hmm. Is it a good idea? Is it working? What's the benefits? Like, I'm not just going, we should do this. And it's like, okay, it's like, hey, it's an actual, like, it's like presenting more of a concept than just an idea. And if I thought an idea, or even if we were just throwing out ideas, I would take that idea and I would own it. And I would try to bring it to the next meeting and go, hey, we talked about this. I know you guys weren't whatever. I've done some research, blah, blah. Let me present this to you. Let me write it up. All that stuff. And the other thing is I would ask other people that were going to be in the meeting, and I would say, what do you think about this? Because for me, what would happen is a lot of times they would go, okay, what do you think? And like if I'm presenting an idea, they'd go, like, whoever's leading the meeting would go, well, what do you think? Well, if I had one or two other people in the room that go, actually, that's a great idea, then it's like, oh, so I'm walking into the room with other people that are kind of already on board with the idea or the concept or whatever it is. And so sometimes you just gotta, like, take it to the next step if you really think it's an idea or something. that you believe in. And here's the deal: don't get your feelings hurt. Sometimes ideas are bad, and just keep, like I said, keep bringing them to the table. Hey, we got a question from my wife, because she asks great questions and no one else is asking questions. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we will show them. So this is the question right here. I'll put up on the screen. What do you want your staff to show up on Sunday like? Maybe what's their mentality? What's their thinking? Kind of, whatever, when, even with that question for you. So what do you want your staff to show up on Sunday like?
Yeah, so you and I were talking about this before we jumped on and went live, but we were talking about how we love people who have an athletic background or a military background. They operate a certain way. So I was an athlete, you were an athlete, growing up, and so like for me, Sunday is like game day, right? Yep. So like if I go back to playing basketball days, like, man, game day is like total focus. Like, I don't want distractions. I want focus. We're not coming in, putting things together. We're not preparing things on game day. All of that has been done. We actually just talked about that this week with our team. We're back to in-person services for the first Sunday, this last Sunday. And it was great. It was fantastic. But I reminded our team that, hey, listen, like our work week is Sunday through Thursday. We take Fridays and Saturdays off. And so by the end of the day on Thursday, everything has to be ready for game day. We don't walk into Sunday trying to figure things out. Everything is done. So we walk in with confidence, the jersey's on, we're ready to go. It's a mindset that you come in. I don't want to see people scrambling on Sunday. I don't want people showing up late. I don't want people trying to figure out, program dinner or, coaching the band on something on Sunday morning. Like all of those things, like kids check in, like every detail, man, needs to be run through. It's almost like, man, on Thursday, before you leave, before you shut it down for your days off, man, you need to visualize top to bottom the experience that, for me, the first time guest is going to have when they show up and interact with my area. And so, like Natalie, like, come ready. Like, it's game day. Our team rally, fired up. Like those are the things that I think most senior leaders are wanting. They don't want you to limp into Sunday, man. They want you all in. It's game day. And what we're playing for, the truth is, every Sunday you have the opportunity that somebody who doesn't know Jesus is going to show up. And so that's why excellence, that's why efficiency, that's why just the way that we greet people and we interact and the music, every little detail matters. And if you're trying to figure those out on Sunday, things are going to get missed, and you're going to miss an opportunity in some way to point people, to Jesus. So.
No, that's good. I kind of want to, on that topic, talking about, game day and coming ready. And, I think let's talk a little bit more like the mindset behind that. And maybe for you, like whether it's a volunteer, staff person, whatever, like talk about some like mental things that like some mindsets that you look for, or that make like a strong leader, someone who is an effective team member. We kind of talked about some of these things, like, for me, I always, whether I was a student or a volunteer or, whatever, but the people that have the ability to think, like, it's like when people like, oh, I have a question, I don't know how to figure this out. I would always say, like, well, have you Googled it yet? Like, just Google it, and don't, like, it's more like figure it out.
Figure it out.
What are the things that, like, you just immediately notice about, or that, like, get your attention for a volunteer or someone on your team that's like, that's the kind of, people that I want?
Yeah, I think well, there's a couple things, like we can get really specific on some of these. One thing that I'm always looking for is engagement level. So whether we're in a team rally or a meeting or during worship or during the message, what's a person's engagement level? So are they worshiping? Are they taking notes? Are they attentive? Are they asking questions? like if you're just this guy, on Sunday or team rally or in a meeting
Oh,
or whatever, man,
yeah.
like great. I hope your brain can compute everything that we're going through and talking through, and I really hope that you're feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit right now and all of that. But you're giving me no indication that's happening, and so immediately there's kind of a check mark by your name of like, man, that person doesn't seem engaged. And so engagement's a huge thing. And then as we kind of touched on, excellence. So something that stands out to me, man, is when I see people pick up trash.
Yep.
So they're walking in from their car, or they're in the atrium, or they're in the office, and man, it's a branch that fell out of the tree, or it's a wrapper that blew in from the trash. When they pick up that trash, it shows me that they care. They care about something. And man, those are little things. It may not mean that they're going to be the greatest leader, but it's going to show me that they care. So attention to those little details, bro. A big one. If anyone wipes down the wet spots on the counter in the bathroom, I see that, man. I'm like, okay, they care about what we're doing here. And so those things stick out to me, and I take note of those things. And oftentimes it's the smallest thing. It's what you do in those little things that eventually lead to the bigger things. I mean, that's just in any area of life, man. You're good with the small things. You'll be given opportunity in the bigger things. Sometimes we look to what happens on the stage with the worship team or the preacher, and man, there is a long path to getting to that place, and it starts with those little things. If you were never taking notes, or you were never cheering on your pastor previously, why would you ever expect to be elevated to anything else? If you don't care about the details, why would I give you a ministry to run or entrust you with people? So how you are in those ways is going to reflect down to the people that you're entrusted to lead. So, I mean, those are just two small examples, but I think they're huge.
Well, and I think even for me, this is something that I had a revelation and I've learned about, and really just kind of backing up for some people. It's I can feel and see some people like kind of like oh, those are little things, or that's that seems like a lot to ask, and it's more about a personal responsibility in the way you think, because um, there's a difference between how an employee thinks and how an owner thinks, right?
Absolutely.
So when I walk into my house, if there's water or trash, guess what? I'm gonna pick it up. Now, some of you need to work on your cleanliness at home, and kind of works out some of that self discipline stuff. But when I go into an office or even a church building, like I think like an owner. So if I see trash, I'm gonna pick it up, because why am I doing that? Because what if there's someone new, and what if they see that and they're going, well, they just throw their trash? Like I feel like as the church, our standard of excellence should be high, because we're creating a space, a sanctuary for the Holy Spirit, for the Word of God to be experienced, and it should be is it excellent as we can be. And so I want to challenge people: start thinking like an owner and not like an employee. Now, you might not ever be the owner, but if you're ever going to be an owner, I think like you've got to change your mindset first, and you got to start sowing the things that you would want as an owner, a leader, a senior leader, whatever it may be. And so you got to start implementing those things, because I think they are noticed. And I think that's even little things like there's a book that I've gone through, and it's Honor's Reward by John Bevere. And man, that book, it will wreck your life in the way that that we interact with people, our leaders, our pastors, and even talking about how worshiping and taking notes. And he even talks about like how if we really believe that the word of God's being preached, whether it's through Landon on Sunday, whatever pastor, and we're called there, and we're actually not taking notes and engaging, we're actually dishonoring God, because you're saying, God, I don't believe you're speaking through this person, or I don't believe this is that important, so I'm just not going to write it down. And it's like, it's actually like you can get into some I think spiritual issues that we've got to work out on ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'm not like condemning anyone. I mean, there's things I've had to work through these things, and through these like, oh, it's another message. But what I've learned is like, even when I've set into 2 or 3 messages from the same speaker, same notes, I'll actually get different stuff. But it's
Mhm.
because my heart, I'm going, God, I know you want to speak to me, so I'm prepared to receive. And so I think those are some massive points. And I think honestly, if you're a leader out there, man, it speaks volumes. It's even like this. Like, this is kind of a weird thing that I have, but I always can kind of tell people by a few things. Their shoes, not about how nice their shoes are, but like, are they clean? Like
Yep.
clean, like, they don't have to. I'm not talking about like, preachers and sneakers. I don't need you to see, the nicest Jordans. I'm not talking about that. I'm like, do you have clean shoes? How's your car look in the inside of it? And then you can always tell someone by like their garage, like how kind of clean, organized, whatever it is.
Those are all choices. You have control over those
Yep.
things. You have complete control over that stuff. And man, you're spot on. You know, as a leader, when you're just talking about preaching for a second, man, you're in a I don't know of many vulnerable positions to be in than being on a public platform, every week, talking to people, and not just talking, but trying to present the word of God to the best of your ability. I had a friend actually text me this week. He's like, I could never do what you do. Like, public speaking's hard enough, but then to preach. And I was like, you're called to it. You're called to it. You do the best that you can. But man, sometimes you're just in a vulnerable place, and you need the people that are your teammates, your team, that is helping you advance the kingdom of God to be an encouragement to you, sitting on the front row, giving feedback. And it's not conjured up feedback. It's legit. I'm into this.
Yeah.
Because the mistake we make oftentimes is we look at the pastor or the leader as, oh, Landon's preaching. No, I'm not preaching. Like, you shouldn't want me to give you something. You should be asking, as you break out that notebook or you sit down for that message from anybody, Holy Spirit, speak to me. Because through God's word and the power of the Holy Spirit is how we're changed and transformed. And so those are things as staff members, employees, whatever, that you need to really think about. And it is difficult as a senior leader, to sit in a meeting and then you're like, I'm preaching. That means you need to take notes and you need to respond to me, right? So then you talk about it, right? You're always in this fine line of like, this is what I need, but then I sound like an arrogant, whatever, by telling you this is what you have to do. So the best teammates and the best staff members are the ones that take the personal responsibility to do that, because it's almost like a thank you for that encouragement. Like, thank you that you laughed at that joke, even though it wasn't funny. Like, you are helping me, whatever. But it's the ones that you feel like you have to tell them they're going to do that, it causes friction in that relationship.
Yeah, and again, I think that there are some things, you just don't understand until you get on the other side and you're like, oh, and I have this, for me, it's like, I may never be a senior pastor, but like, I try to put myself in that shoes, like as a senior, like serving under a senior pastor, whatever, in whatever capacity, like like not thinking about me, like, oh, this is what, but it's like, okay, what do they need? What would help them? Or even like, man, if I was that person, what would I want? And because I think a lot of times our own needs and insecurities are a sign that God's saying, well, that's what other people need, so you should speak to that. Like, oh wow, so you need a lot of approval. Like, I know I struggle. Like, I'm gonna prove. Like, I love. Like, I'm not the guy that when someone's like, man, you did awesome, I want to be like, man, thanks. Like, yeah, I didn't do awesome. Like, I'm not the person that's like, no, oh, whatever. Oh, you're too nice. Like, I'm like,
keep it coming.
Absolutely, I did. I crushed it, and I'm glad that you noticed. But I think that God, for me, has used that to go, okay, you need that, but now instead of trying to go around seeking it, give it out to people and let people know you're awesome. You did a great job. You're killing it. Keep going. And I think those are the things that God is trying to work through us as insecure, prideful people. And it's a journey. I want to I want to
Let me
kind
say one
of
thing to
go
that.
ahead. Go ahead.
Let me say
Go
one
ahead.
thing to that. So it's interesting because what you're saying is you're trying to give out what you want to receive, right?
Yeah.
Man, it's funny because we talk about the principle of like sowing and reaping, and like to like we're one primary way, right? Like invest your resources and you're going to reap a benefit from it. Man, sow some compliments, sow some work
Yep.
ethic, and see what ends up coming back. Everything that you sow is what you'll reap. And so if it's constant complaining, if it's constant neediness, you can't expect anything back. If affirmation is something that you desire, start giving affirmation and see what comes
Yep.
back to you. So anyways, I just thought that was a great point, Chandler.
Yeah, I mean that's just again that's just something for me personally that I had to work through
Chandler,
because
you're doing a great job, man.
thanks. Because I wasn't getting it, and and I had to go to the Bible and to Psalms where it says David encouraged himself in the Lord, and
Yeah.
and I can say this: I am my biggest cheerleader, and that might sound like whatever, but I just had to get to a place where if I know that God's approving and I'm working my hardest, and I know that I'm doing good, I don't need anyone else to go good, keep going, like that's a great job, because I get it, like there's some of you that are watching right now that you feel like the only time your leader ever talks to you is when something needs to be corrected or is wrong or is off, and you are really discouraged because you feel like, wow, they don't say much, and when they do say something, it's just it's always negative. So maybe let's talk about that. From on both sides of the coin here, both as maybe a volunteer serving on a team to the leader. Kind of jump in and talk about that situation or tension that might be happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two sides of it. I've got to be mindful of that because we can be really in the church world. You know, we can be really heavy on critiquing things,
Yeah.
and you can get to a place where you critique things so much that you stop enjoying things, and that's a dangerous place to be, because we are supposed to enjoy the presence of God. Like church should be a joy, not a burden. And
Yeah.
that is not just for the people attending, that is for the team as well and the staff. And so we work really hard on that. But you've got to give a lot of grace to your leader, because the last thing that your leader wants, the last thing that I want for our church is for it to fail. The
Yeah.
last thing that I want is for us to have a bad experience. I
Yeah.
am never wanting your area to fail. I'm never wanting anything to fall apart. I want our church to continue to advance, to reach people, to bring glory to God, and to have a great time doing it. But there's things that are always going to need correcting. When someone hits a home run.
Oh
You
yeah.
don't always know when they're making mistakes in, I'm not a baseball player, but their stance. Maybe there's a reason they're not hitting home runs. Maybe there's a
Yeah.
reason that they're striking out. Maybe there's a reason they're not making certain shots. And you have to find those little things and critique them. Not because, man, you're horrible. It's, I want you to be better. I want you to
Yeah.
thrive. The better you get, the better we all get. And at the end of the day, it's not about you getting better, isn't about you receiving any accolades. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
About me being recognized. It is about bringing glory to God's name. I mean, we are supposed to grow from one degree of glory to the next, right? And so
Yep.
that means we constantly have to get better. Man, I read a quote. There was this book called The Disciplined Life, and this quote I took away and I actually wrote it on an index card. I keep it with me. It says, "You have no right to be mediocre if you are capable of something better. As a follower of Christ, you have no right to
Yep.
be mediocre. You were made in the image of God. You were made with purpose. You were made with gifting. So a leader oftentimes has to pull that out of you. And so you can't be super sensitive to critique, and you can't always expect it to be a celebration. Every Sunday was awesome, or every youth event was
Yeah.
great. Like, yeah, it was, and I'm sure something happened, but we are always looking to advance the kingdom, because God isn't stationary. He's moving. And until every person gets reached, every person comes to know Jesus, we've got a job to do, and we're going to have to tweak things and correct things and challenge people to be better so that we can make the greatest impact. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I think for me as a leader, I like I've found that if I'm if I'm making sure to celebrate and to as a team individuals, when it comes time to critique, it's very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I always make sure that my celebrations are bigger, louder, and in groups, and my critiques are going to be more individual, or they're going going to be in the right situations. And I think that's kind of how it's like, man, celebrate people publicly and make sure that you're correcting or talking about problems privately.
Yep.
Because when you do that, it makes it easier to have those things, and and people don't feel like you're calling them out or whatever. And I think that's important. But I want to say this too, that there are some leaders out there, which I'm not calling them bad, but that's not their way, and they're maybe not going to ever do that. But as someone who is, if you feel called to that team, or even if you're just working in a job, stop like, oh, well, they need to change this. You can't change them. What you need to do is you need to figure out you need to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and how they're wired.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe they're not going to be people, like, there's just some leaders that the encouragement's just not going to happen. Like, you might get one a year, and you better take that, and you better highlight it and blow it up and keep it on your phone screen. But you got to figure out, okay, why are they that way, and what languages are they speaking, and how are they wired? Because then I've just found that with leaders, if you understand, their strengths, their even their weaknesses, it helps you to go, okay, I'm here to serve and help, and not just go, well, I'm a victim. They need to change this, or no. You can't change people. You got to take responsibility for your leadership, and really work on understanding those above you, and even around you, because when you understand people better and you care about people, it makes it easier to work with and under people.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to a question here. Darren asked a question. Fatigue is a real thing. How do you transfer the vision through leaders and volunteers about the grind?
Yeah, fatigue, man. Ministry's tiring. Man, my dad. So I grew up in ministry. I was a pastor's kid, and then when I got into adulthood, my dad transitioned into to full-time marriage and family counseling. Man, he told me something. I remember this. I was in third grade, and he told me, he said, Landon, I think you probably just had a frustrating day. He said, man, you have two types of people in ministry. You have the hardest working people you'll ever meet, and you also have the laziest people you'll ever meet. And so, fatigue is a real thing. So you got to work hard, but you got to learn to rest hard as well. You got to learn to delegate appropriately. I think where a lot of people fail is they give responsibility away, but they don't inspect it. They don't set that lead up for success that they've given that project or that ministry away to. And so you'll protect yourself from fatigue by making sure that you are developing leaders underneath you. So if I have 10 things on my plate that I'm responsible for, and I can develop 5 leaders to take some of those things, then we're working together as a team. And so you run into people that work 70, 80 hours a week in ministry, and they're never with their family, and all of that kind of stuff is typically because there hasn't necessarily been a leadership structure that says pour into these people and empower them to lead this area. And that could be a result of top-down leadership, and it's just one thing after the other, and so there's never a to catch up. So a healthy leader is going to realize the bandwidth of their team. A healthy leader is going to realize, the time with family is important and things like that. And so there's some things that we've implemented, within the scheduling here at Trademark that helps protect some of that honestly we didn't create. We just stole it from Gateway, and so you take some of that stuff, but to avoid fatigue. I think you have to ask yourself a question: Am I tired? Am I tired because I'm working in the wrong direction? Am I working on the wrong things? Am I not prioritizing correctly, or am I tired because I just need a break? And I think there's a difference between those two. There's I'm tired because I just feel like it never gets done. Like, I'm an accomplishment person. I like finality. I like start it,
Yep.
finish it. But
Yep.
what I've learned in ministry is there is nothing finished. There's always an in between. It's like, okay, we got here. Now there's this next in between. So you've got to
Yep.
learn. You've got to learn a rhythm, and what that looks like for you. And everyone's wired differently. I've got a big gas tank, if you will. Like, I can take on a lot of stuff. I like
Yeah.
having a full plate. But I also have to realize, like, when I'm getting to that point of, man, I need to get away with my wife. I need to have a family day. I need to recharge by, going to work out or playing basketball and things like that. And I think oftentimes it's learning to manage the hours you have off, not necessarily just waiting for the day off. Like, you get home, shut down the phone, shut down the email, like, set boundaries for yourself. And that'll help you, not hit those fatigue levels so often.
Yeah, I think the boundaries, and I think that's why the Bible talks about having a Sabbath, that you have even a day a week where it's like you're just doing something else. I think, the last few years, Natalie and I got into a good rhythm where we knew, like, twice a year we needed to take off and have a vacation, and we basically kept them in the same spot because we knew we were either about to go into a crazy season or we were just coming out of a crazy season, and so we needed that break. And so I think it's something that you've got to manage. I think this also comes down to Landon, that question of, we talked about, is unmet expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And as a leader, I think, like Landon's doing with his team, is creating those expectations and those boundaries, because then everyone kind of knows and already has permission to take off and to rest and to have vacation, and to, the expectation of, we value you and your family, so we're not going to run people into the ground, but we're going to work hard. So let's talk, as we kind of in the last few minutes, as we kind of wrap up, let's talk about some unmet expectations, and the dangers and the frustrations of that. Because I think that for me, the last few years, that is something that I really try to work on, is presenting the how we do it, the why we do it, the way we do it, all that stuff. So go ahead on that.
Yeah, unmet expectations is twofold. Like as a staff member and as a senior leader, like there are things that, like, man, I expect our team to do, and when those things don't happen, they lead to a point of frustration for me. But I have to take a step back and also say, okay, did I set them up for success? Was I clear on what it was that I wanted them to do? And what I found for myself is that I'm usually frustrated when I hadn't set out all the details on the upfront side of things. I wasn't very specific about what the expectation was. I didn't set that. And so then I have an expectation in my mind. They executed it the way that they thought they should execute it, and those things didn't line up. In unmet expectations is all communication. It's a breakdown of communication. This can go from me to our team, from our team to our leaders. One of the things that we've tried to stress is that, man, communication is key. If you are not clearly communicating the standard, clearly communicating your expectations, clearly communicating the boundaries, clearly communicating those things, then you're always going to be frustrated with some unmet expectation. And so you've got to learn to communicate. And listen, I'll tell you this, the worst way to communicate any type of emotion or anything is via text or email. Like, you got to have some, can I get an hour with you? Can I get 30 minutes with you? As a staff person, if you're feeling like frustrated with your leader or whatever, are you asking the right questions in the meeting?
Yeah.
Are you coming with clarifying details? Like, okay, he said, I want you to do that men's event. Okay. You need to come back with 20 questions so that way, you nail it. And then you're not frustrated because they're critiquing the event or whatnot. On the flip side, as a leader, whether you're leading a team or you're a senior leader, you also need to give as much clarity as you possibly can. We got to remember, we're teammates. We're in this together. We're all trying to make this happen. Frustration sets in when it kind of comes me against you, and that kind of stuff happens between teammates and between leaders and staff members. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things is when there is unmet expectations, and I think you alluded to it earlier, like why isn't my leader pouring into me, or why isn't my leader, inviting me into this meeting or whatnot? Like, you got to just take a step back and just realize, like, there's decisions and thoughts that your leader is dealing with that, one, they may not be ready to talk about because they're still processing.
Yeah.
They may not be ready to implement it. And they may be going through a season. You got to give grace. You don't know what may be happening at home with your leader. You may not know what may be happening with internal leadership, with elders, and the church may have lost the biggest giver they've ever had, and it's jeopardizing him being
Yeah.
able to keep you on staff. And he's trying to figure out all of that stuff. There's a lot of dynamics that go on that you've got to just say, if I feel called to this church, if I feel called to this leader, and I really think there's three things. You got to be called to a pastor, you got to be called to a place and a people. And those are important things. If you don't feel called to those things, you may find yourself frustrated. But if you're settled on that, I feel called to be under this leader, then man, you've got to be willing to give exponential grace for the things that you may not be privy to behind the scenes.
Yeah, I always and again, for my leadership, like with people underneath me, I always communicate. Listen, there's no such thing as over communication.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're never going to email, text, tell me, you're never going to harass me. Now that's my person, because I'm a communication engagement guy, so I enjoy that. Not everyone's like that, but I understand my leadership, and so I always tell my team, like, listen, if you're unsure of something or feel unclear, you need to ask or tell or remind. There's just communication is key. I think the other thing that we, like you said, is, man, assume the best. Yes. Assume the best until you can find out what the facts are.
Yes.
Our human nature is to always go to the worst, or they don't want that. Maybe they just forgot to tell you or forgot to invite you, or they had a bad day. Like everyone can have a bad day. Mm-hmm. So when with people, man, let's always assume the best, because again, you never know what's going on. You never know what's happening. Right. And even if you think you do, I promise you don't. We've always got to assume the best with our leaders and our pastors, because when you have that perspective, man, it really changes the dynamic of the team, and it really makes you someone that can be ready and willing, and having the right attitude is major. So, man, these are some great conversations, and we're gonna maybe see if we got any other questions. Aaron Dickerson had one real quick that we can kind of wrap up. What do you do, Aaron? We love Aaron. What do you do to protect who you bring into the rooms for dreaming, but still keep new perspectives and personalities?
Man, that's good. I love the brainstorm process. So like I'm an idea guy. I mean, I'll see an empty building driving by, and I'll think of 50 things that I could do with that building, or whatever. And that's why Chandler and I can't get on the phone often, because we end up talking for like 4 hours about what could be. So you do have to protect who you bring into the room. I think when you're looking for new perspective and personality, because here's a danger. You include somebody in a meeting one time, and then you don't want them in the meeting the next time, and their feelings get hurt, and so you're dealing with sensitivity. Get a completely outside perspective. So Aaron, like, if y'all are dreaming up something for youth ministry, like that's where I would try to say, hey, Chandler, could you jump in to a brainstorm, or another youth pastor, or talking to somebody else, like, hey, do you have somebody that's really great with ideas? We're trying to get some new perspectives, and have that person from the outside join in. So then you don't feel like you're having to exclude certain people from your team that may not be gifted in that area or bring value to that. But then I do think you have to be strategic in helping to develop people. And so maybe there's specialized meetings that you're not really looking for new perspective or new personalities. You're kind of feeling the room out, and you're coaching them on, hey, here's how we do a brainstorm. All right now, this is what I need. Boom. And see who does that. So it's not an expectation that they're always going to be in the brainstorm. It's more of a training area for for finding the people on your team or within your volunteer group that may be valuable to the real meetings.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. What I always try to do is, like, if I'm having a dream meeting, I would let everybody know this is a dream meeting. Everyone come with ideas. There's no bad ideas, even though there are bad ideas. But I want to create a space where people can just throw stuff out, come with ideas. They may be crazy. It may be something that we've already done that I know won't work. But I try to communicate with okay, this is a dream meeting. Let's dream. And then the next one might be what we call discuss. Okay, let's discuss the good ideas, the bad ideas. Let's critique. Let's try to shoot through the idea. And then the third one would be like a decide. Like, okay, here's this is what we're going to do that's new, or the direction that we're going to go. So I think communication, when you have meetings, like, let people know what the meeting is about and what they need to come prepared to give to the meeting. So that way you're not having a dream meeting and you got Downer Darren over there that's like, well, that's dumb. I don't like that. And then that way your team knows, like, hey, this is a dreaming, we're collabing, there's no bad ideas, like, just let's have positive vibes, don't just crush people. I mean, so when they walk into it, they have that expectation of this is what's going to happen, and not, and everyone already knows what this is about.
So since the title of this is what your senior pastor wants you to know, like, I'll tag that with, if you're the staff member and you're not invited to those meetings, don't get upset about it. Or if you were invited and then you're not invited the next time, don't be sensitive. Don't let it affect you. Like move on. Work hard. Keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you'll get invited into what you need to be invited into.
Yep. No, I think that is so good. Well, man, Lynn, I want to say thank you for
having me.
Thank you for doing this. I'm excited for the next one. Next week, I want to invite you guys. Next week, we're going to be talking about "You Have Not Because You Ask Not," the foundation of fundraising. I believe I've just realized over the last year, working in the church, and then with Free Church Media, having to incorporate it, and we're trying to raise money and fundraise and everything that goes with that the church just doesn't really do a great job at actual, like, how to fundraise, how to coming up with ideas, how to approach people, how to ask, how to, all the things that are out there that can help your ministry and your church. Like, the fact that most churches don't realize that if you'll apply, if you use your tax ID number, like, Google gives you $10,000 a month in free Google ads, like, free. You just gotta fill out some paperwork. So we're going to be talking with my friend Nick Valcom. He was a missionary in Peru. He's hilarious, and it's going to be an amazing time. Also got this. We got some stickers in. You can't read it because it's yellow. It's fine. But also what we got in the mail, and I literally am not lying. Like, I just got this in today. Like, I'm not making this up. So I didn't just wait to do this. Like, I ordered it and whatever. But we got merch.
You just have a knife laying around, Chandler?
Bro, I got like 5 knives. Don't ask, dude. But we got stuff in, bro. We got
yeah.
Bro,
oh, great.
Yeah. And it's Champion. This one's Champion. Like, nice. I just love Champion shirts. So I'm pumped about that. But we got shirts, and then we actually got some new ones coming up, and we got stickers. But if you wanna grab that, I'll drop the link below, and you guys can go check out, buy something, support Free Church Media, and then I want to say thank you to everyone that is supporting and giving to Free Church Media, even you, Landon, your church, for partnering with us. And we've had some, honestly, a good friend he is that gave last week and just blew my mind. And I'm so thankful for what God's doing and what he's doing with Free Church Media and where we're going next year. And we're talking and dreaming about a lot of new things. And so if you would like to give, I can drop that link as well. We would love to have you a part. Any amount that you can do is amazing. Obviously, everything that we put out is free, because we believe that we will provide as much resources and training for pastors in church so they can reach people. It's really important as that. And with so many just don't have the staffing and the resources to have graphics and videos and to step up their media game, to step up their content and social media, all that stuff. But I want to say thanks to everybody for watching. Thank you, Landon. If you do not follow Landon, make sure and go and follow him. Go check out his church, Trademark Church. They've got a great online presence, great social media, all their services, everything that they're doing they've got, if you're looking for some churches to follow for ideas and everything like that, make sure you follow him and his church. And we'll have you on soon. I'm going to coming down to visit you next week. We're going to be shooting some videos, kind of talking behind the scenes about Free Church Media and everything that is that's going on, is happening, what we have coming up in the future. So thanks everybody for watching. Make sure and let us know that you're here. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We are real people with real email addresses. And
I think Chandler froze. Well, if you're still on and Chandler's not on, thanks for being here with us today.